Right, Snappers, today's episode is a big one, and I mean proper big one.
Today we've got someone who the UK NFL fans will instantly recognise. Not just from the sidelines, but from the TV screens every single season. With over 40 years in the game, coaching across the CFL, NFL Europe, college football.
And someone who's been right at the heart of growing our game internationally, including right here in the UK. And now one of the voices of the NFL on Sky Sports. So yeah, safe to say, if you're an NFL fan in the UK, you know this man.
And if you don't, this is your time for some education. Because Jeff Reinebold, welcome to Mind the Snap.
He's crossed the border, crossed the sea, coached the game from A to Z. NFL, CFL, everywhere he's been, drawing up a play while the lights go dim. Never short of one more story, never backs away from glory. Give him a headset, give him a whistle, breaks down football like a guided missile. From the locker room to the TV screen, he's seen things you've never seen. Every snap's another lesson learned. Now it's Mind the Snap's turn. Hey, Coach Reinebold's in the house tonight, bringing football brains and a whole lot of bite. From Canada to the NFL lights, talking ball until the morning light. No cliches, no holding back, just football talk on Mind the Snap.
So Jeff, welcome to the show here. So where are we catching you today, and how hectic is life right now?
Well, life is actually, this is the last day of preparation before we play tomorrow. So we just had our walkthrough today, and typically on the day before a game in pro football, you have a walkthrough as a team, and all the mental work is still ongoing, the mental preparation, but the physical work is done. And, we play Toronto at 1:00 tomorrow, and which I think you can actually stream. It's, I think, on at about 7:00 in London. And it's a big game for us because it's a divisional game at home. And those are the ones you need to win.
So do you ever get an off season and any downtime?
You know what? If you guys know this because you sent me the link today, but my email account is nooffseasonhawaii@gmail.com.
Yeah, we did
and
have
it really is. I
that.
have no off season because and really frankly I don't want one, because as soon as I'm done here, when hopefully we're in the Grey Cup in November, I'll come right over to Sky after that, and then I'll do my thing at Sky, and then we finish that up after the Super Bowl, and then we're into the draft in the NFL and all the things that go on. The NFL is amazing because they have really figured out that you need to stay in front of the consumer all the time. And, they've got events, the draft, free agency. I mean, they've strategically stretched it out so that right now is really about the only, quote, downtime that there is in the NFL, and we still got teams in mini camps right now.
Yeah, we thought we'd have, for the podcast, we'll finish after the Super Bowl, and we'll have downtime then until we pick it up in August for preseason. And we haven't stopped. We've been releasing 1 or 2 episodes a week.
Probably been busier than we are during the season. To your point, Jeff, you go from the Super Bowl to the draft to OTAs, mini camps. Wow, there's just so much going on. All that free agency, it's just relentless.
Yeah, and you know what? And that's all planned. I'm telling you, they are so smart because they understand the sports dollar or the entertainment dollar is so hotly contested now because the world is so much different than it was when we were young. When if you were from a specific region or a specific town, you were a fan of that town and you watched that team. And once that team was over, you waited until next season. You can't do that anymore because they found out. And I think this was one of the benefits that they got from NFL Europe was when they had NFL Europe, what they found out was that if you left a market like we would leave we would come in February, play our season, be gone by the end of May, and then you wouldn't be back until the next February. Well, you can't, especially if you're trying to establish a fan base, you can't be that long out of the market. And the NFL learned from that, and now they're constantly putting information and news, and even some of it is, basically made for television stuff, just so that they can stay in the marketplace. And it's smart.
Yeah, we still get our inbox spammed every day from the NFL communications.
Yeah, they understand. I mean, it's interesting. I remember going to the NFL offices when I worked for the league for the first time, and I was working in the London office. I flew from London to New York, and we got in a cab and we went down to 280 Park, which is where the offices were at the time. And I remember walking in there, and like, for me, it was hallowed ground because it was the home of the NFL, right?
Yeah,
and as I went in the building, and you will go through security and you start, making your way around, what I found was that there weren't a lot of football people in there, but there were a lot of big brains with big ideas and marketing plans and lawyers and, accountants and all of it, because what it reminded me was that this is more than sport. It's an incredible global industry. And they do, maybe, you could argue this with FIFA, I suppose, but I don't know if there's another sport in the world that is as tuned into marketing as the National Football League is.
It's
all over
all
it.
about it, isn't it? Yeah, everything's
and the way it works, and this is the genius of it, right? Imagine this now. You take 32 of the world's biggest capitalists, industrial giants, guys that families have made hundreds of millions of dollars, and then you put them in a communistic society where all 32 share, right? Because what separates the NFL from, I think, every other sports league is they were the first to actually have what we call league think, where a team like Green Bay, which is in a city of 200,000 people, can compete with the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys and Los Angeles Rams, cities that are, I don't know how much, they're incredibly bigger and have much more resources. But because there's shared revenue inside the league, right, they can survive, and not only survive, they can be one of the best franchises in historically in the game. And I think that's the way it should be. You look at it now and you think, if you're an NFL fan and you go back now in the last 20 years, 25 years, we really haven't had the dynasties that you have in other sports where, a Man U, for example, when I first came to London, they just basically owned the Premiership. They beat everybody, right? And if you were from West Ham or some, Albion Bromwich or any of those teams, you had no chance. No chance. And it's different in the NFL now. You see that, you look at 2 years ago, we were ready to anoint Philadelphia as the next, dynasty. Well, they don't even get back to the Super Bowl the next year, and Seattle wins it. And the Rams, it's the way you would want it to be if you're a fan, that your team has a chance.
Always has a chance. I'm about to say, always has a chance, don't they?
Yeah, and the rules are set up that way. When you have a salary cap, and the interesting part about it was, when they did the salary cap, they also put a floor in. So, for example, some of the franchises in the past, the Cardinals and Cincinnati had the reputation of not spending money. Well, now you have to spend to a certain threshold. You have to. You cannot save that money. You have to invest it. And then you also have a cap. So you have a floor and a cap of expenditure.
Yeah, so
and it's the same for everybody.
All the Bengals do now is just give that floor, the floor, just to Jamar Chase, and then.
Well, I tell you what, I think I'd do the same thing, because that cat's pretty good.
I mean, I'll be paying him what he wants to come to Buffalo.
But you know what it does, though, it gives them a chance. So Cincinnati, which is a small market town, Cincinnati's a city of 1 million people, but it's a small market city. They've been to a Super Bowl. They had an opportunity a couple years ago, because of Joe Burrow and their offense, to They had a chance to win a Super Bowl. The Indianapolis Colts have won a Super Bowl. Indianapolis is not a big city, and so you see it. It's what I think sports should be, so that every team, and I know I'm speaking to the choir because I'm a Leeds United fan, and like it's been a long dry spell outside the Premiership.
Yeah, so that's where I'm from. I'm from near Leeds. I'm a Yorkshireman.
Okay.
My father's a Leeds United fan, but
well, when they got to the Premiership a couple years ago for the first time, I promised I do a podcast, and I promised the people on the podcast that I would sing "Marching On Together" if they got into the Premiership, and I kept my promise, but it wasn't very good singing.
Yeah, and Max Crosby's invested.
Yep. It's interesting. There's a number of players and coaches and teams that have now seen what the Premiership's all about, and have invested money in teams. Or JJ Watt's a huge Premiership fan.
Yeah, loves it.
I think if you guys would be shocked, I think if you went in a locker room, ours is very much the same, right? And right now the World Cup's going on, and it's hot conversation in the locker room, and those guys play FIFA, and they got their favorite players and their favorite teams, and they're just fans like everybody else.
Especially with Canada getting their first ever World Cup win.
Man, I'm telling you, and what a win too! What a win!
I think they're pretty much
our team. Our stadium. We have a tenant in the stadium called Atletico Ottawa, and they are a sub team of Atletico Madrid.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so just down the hall, they have offices just down the hall from us, and I go down there every once in a while and practice my bad Spanish on those guys.
Una cerveza, por favor.
No, that's in the bar upstairs.
It must be incredible as well around the atmosphere of and the buzz in Canada at the moment.
Yeah, it is, and you know what? It's so cool because it's affected our season. We're playing tomorrow at 1:00 because we were supposed to play our game in Toronto at 7. But when the World Cup stadiums were decided and all of that, the Toronto Argonauts Stadium, home stadium, is one of the stadiums that they are putting World Cup games in, and so they made massive upgrades to the stadium. And last night, if you watched the Canadian game or Canada game, that stadium is the home field of the BC Lions. That's their stadium. And so a number of our stadiums, Edmonton is also going to host a game. So there's been an awful lot of carryover benefit for the teams and the cities.
Nice.
Works with the offense. The defensive coordinator works with the defense. The defensive position coaches work with their position.
Yeah.
The special teams coach gets access to every player and every room. And so you are next to the head coach. You are you are the only guy on the staff that addresses the entire team. And what I've learned from that is that your message can reinforce and needs to reinforce the head coach's message every day. And so you stay in what we call alignment in the business, right? Yeah. And I learned that from Coach Vermeil, who actually was the first special teams coach in the National Football League. He was hired by George Allen a long time ago as a young assistant with the Los Angeles Rams, and nobody had a special teams coach at that time. And George Allen was a forward-thinking guy, and he gave Coach Vermeil that responsibility. And I think it's really the best. I love it. I love what I do. I love the players that I get to work with. Now, a lot of times the kids that you work with as a special teams coach are the young guys that are fighting to get on a roster and make it in the league, or some older guys who are fighting to stay on a roster and make it in the league. And so those guys are fun to work with because they know what's at stake. And if you're a veteran, you got to contribute. You got to find a way to add value to the team so that you can, stay on the club. As a rookie, you're trying to, add value so that you can make the club. That's two definite, different populations, but fun populations to work with.
And I think it's, people always say that you can learn, that the youngsters learn from the older heads. I think there might be much, maybe also nowadays, I think that the way that science has advanced in things and the way that technology has advanced in things, some of the youngsters could teach the older ones as well, help them keep their minds and bodies in the game.
You've already seen it in when we were trying to get this thing hooked up. I had to go to my assistant, and he had to show me how to get the picture on my thing. So hey, it is a generational thing, but it's interesting. The game has changed so much, right? I mean, and I say that and I qualify it with, the game will always be the same game. It's a man's game. It's a physical game. It is, in my opinion, the toughest game to play in the world, both physically and mentally. But I said to the players this morning, we were talking in my special teams meeting this morning, I said, fellas, one of the things that makes football so difficult is you only play once a week. And it's not like, Premiership soccer or hockey or, the NBA or Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, they play 162 times.
Yeah.
So if you lose one game, it ain't that big a deal.
Yeah.
But for us, we play 18 times. That's all we get. And so every game means more. And the time between games, well, if you play a bad game in the NBA, 2 nights later, you're playing again and you can get it out of your system. Yeah. When you play and you don't play well, and we didn't play well last week and we lost, it eats at you the entire week. You can't wait to get the 7 days over with so that you can play again and get that bad taste out of your mouth. And I think that psychologically makes the game much harder to play than, baseball where they play 162, hockey where they play 82, basketball where they play, 100. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, over 100. Yeah, easier.
Yeah, it's very difficult to. It's playing sports myself before. That missed tackle or that missed chance, and against some teams, like some teams you don't play twice.
Yeah, and you never. Yeah, and that's the thing that the veteran players learn, is that you're not going to you don't get a second chance at this, right? You can't go back. You're not going to get a redo. You don't get, and I say this to the special teams guys, we don't get second down, right? No. When you go out there to punt the ball, you don't. If you don't do it well, they don't. Like on offense, you throw an incompletion, it's second down. You still got 2 more downs to get it. Yeah. Well, for us, we go out there, you get a punt blocked. Nobody's going to stop the game and say, "Okay, do it again. Let's try it again." You get your ass beat.
Go at it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the sense of urgency that you have to play with is so much higher. And then we play in our league, in the Canadian League, where you have 2 downs, and then if you don't get it, you punt on 3rd down, right? So there are more special teams plays in a game because the game moves so much faster. And then on top of it, you're not allowed to fair catch the football in our league. So I would bet you if fans watch a CFL game, they would fall in love with the game, because it's very interesting in that, with the exception of the 5 offensive linemen, every player on offense can be moving as the ball is snapped. So I remember when I came up to Canada and I'm standing in the secondary, and all of a sudden we're in Skelly, and all of us, which is like skeleton passes, they call it Skelly. So all of a sudden the offense comes out and they're like everybody's running. It looked like some quail just went up, or a bunch of pigeons took off, and I'm going, what is this? And it's really a fast, exciting, beautiful game.
That's a really good segue. Sorry, Lee. That's a really good segue for us, actually, because a lot of our listeners obviously are just core NFL. We're all about the Grey Cup. If you were to sell the CFL to our listeners for 2 minutes, Jeff, how would you sell it?
Well, I think this is the thing. First of all, the tradition of the game, the history of the game. It is the oldest professional sports league in existence, right? It's older than the Premiership. It's older than any professional sports league. It also, I think it's, I don't know what we've had, 130 or 40 championship games, right? It is very much a part of the fabric and fiber of Canada. It's unique to Canada. It's, you know, we have some things that make it more difficult as a coach, certainly, because you're only allowed to have a certain number of American players, and you have to have a certain number of Canadian players, and the game is dynamic. It is fast moving, and it's obviously with one less down every time you go out there. It's 2nd and 10 every time you go out on the field. So you don't see a lot of the run. You're going to get an awful lot of throwing, and you got to have a quarterback to win. Now, I remember I've been really fortunate. I've had a chance to be on a team with 4 different Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. And one of was this little guy out of Boston College. He was about my size, out of Boston College. And I remember our head coach, as he was going into his 2nd year, he goes, "Do you think that little guy will ever figure this out?" And lo and behold, that little guy named Doug Flutie would go on to a Hall of Fame career in Canada. Wow. And then finish his football career with the Bills and the Chargers in the National Football League. And that one season that he figured it out, Doug threw for more yards, 6,319 yards. 6,319 yards in a 16-game season.
Wow.
So that's the kind of game it is. It's a wide open, high scoring, you know, again, the return game. You know how in the NFL, I tease my friends that are special teams coaches in the NFL. I said, well, "You're stealing money." I say, you guys are stealing money. All you got to do is find a punter to punt the ball to the top of the, to the top of the roof and force a fair catch, and you don't have to worry about return. I said, and then get one to kick the ball out of the end zone on a kickoff. What do you guys do?
Nothing to do.
We don't get any of that. We don't get any of that. As a matter of fact, as you watch our game, you'll see some things that you go, "What? Did I just see that?"
Yeah.
Our game is analogous in some ways to rugby, because you'll see laterals that you won't see in the National Football League, and that the kickers, if you punt or kick the football, number one, it cannot be fair caught by the other team. They have to return it.
Yeah.
Number two, if you are behind the punter or kicker when the ball is contacted, you can go down and you can recover the ball and advance the ball. So you see some crazy things. I remember, again, my first year in the league, we're here in Ottawa, as a matter of fact, and I was in BC, and it was the last play of the half, right? And I'm thinking they're just going to take a knee. Nuh-uh. They come up and they throw like a 17-yard in cut across the field. And the receiver catches the ball, takes 2 steps, and kicks the ball forward towards the goal line.
Oh, wow.
Well, there was a Ottawa player positioned behind the ball, and he ran down and fell on the ball. Touchdown.
Yeah.
Right? Now, another one, I had a return. I'm coaching special teams in Las Vegas, and we got all American players who don't know the rules of the game. You can tell them all you want, right? We had this great returner named Tamarick Vanover, who went on and became a Pro Bowler for the Chiefs, right? And so Tamarick's playing his first game. He had gotten kicked out of Florida State for taking money taking booster money, right? Okay. So the NFL said you can't play because you're not old enough. The CFL said, "Come on." So he's a 19-year-old kid, right? And so we go up to BC to play first game, and in American football, if teams punting in close to the goal line, you put your feet at the 5, and if the ball's going to carry into the end zone, you let it go and you take the touchback and bring it back out to the. Well, Tamarick thought that's the way it worked, right? And they punt the ball, and I'm watching him, and he's back there like this, and he just watches the ball go over his head, and he starts running off the field, and I'm on the side. Go, wait, team. He comes over. He can't figure out what all the fuss is about, right? And they go down the ball in the end zone and get a touchdown. So you're going to have, if you watch CFL football, you'll have some moments where you go, did I just see what I think I saw?
I love that. I'm sold on it now.
I'm sure. Making a note for the game tomorrow at 1 p.m. wasn't it? You said
1 p.m. Eastern time. I think it'll be 7 o'clock in London time.
Yeah.
And you go to www.cfl.ca and you can stream the game live.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, our league just signed a huge television contract with DAZN and some of the. We're going to start to compete internationally now for viewership.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah, that's quite cool. In that it's we went to our first European game.
Did you go see the Warriors play?
When they
So
see the
one-
Warriors.
yes, we had Marvin on the GM.
Awesome.
And a good chat with him, and so we went down to watch them, and it was such a great atmosphere, great game.
I tell you what, I am really hopeful for that league, and I think that league has a chance to succeed. I think that if they can all get along, and people understand that you're only as good as your worst team, and I think there's a little bit right now of a stratification in that league where Vienna and Rheinfire are way better than everybody else, and then everybody else is trying to catch up. And I said to Marvin, because Marvin and I have talked a number of times since he took that job, I said, I think you're in the best situation in that league because there are so many good young English players now. And the indigenous game, the local game is stronger than it's ever been. Way back, I'll go all the way back to the 80s when the Budweiser League was in England. There are more teams playing, there are more kids playing, there's more exposure, and there's a talent vein in England that I think can support, the professional game. We have an English kid with us here who's an interesting story. He's from White City outside of London and played professional basketball in the Canary Islands.
Yeah.
Then went to the United States and played a year of college football at Weber State, and he's a really, really good athlete. I mean, he's a elite level athlete. He's just learning how to be a football player right now.
Yeah, I think that's where it's athletics and the athletes as in European sports have all been two separate. It's you're either going to be a soccer player, a basketball player, whereas you look at a lot of the colleges now, they look at the athletic capabilities of a player, of a person.
Yeah, you know what? It's interesting. It's interesting you say that, and I remember as a young special teams coach in Canada, just not getting mad at these guys, but trying to get them to understand. I'm talking about the young Canadian kids, because they kind of felt like they were second-class citizens. And I said, hey, wait a second now. If you put a pair of ice skates on, you'd be an elite athlete because you're a Canadian, right? Yeah. Well, what happens when you put a pair of football shoes on?
Yeah.
Right? You should. And I think the world has changed now. And I think kids now are starting to see, because of the success of guys like Sebastian Vollmer, and you look around and you see the English kids that are playing in the National Football League, and Irish kids are kicking in the National Football League, and there's kids from all over the world. There are more foreign-born players playing now in the National Football League than there have ever been. There are 13 Canadians playing in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
And, if you'd have said to me in 1988 when I first came to the Canadian Football League that there are going to be 13 Canadians playing in the NFL, I'd say you're out of your mind. And they're playing, I'm not just talking about playing, these guys are playing at a high level.
Yeah, just making it at that level is insane, isn't it? Just being part of that 54 is, or 53 is...
It's, you know what, this is not, and I'm not poking fun at any other sport or degrading any other sport or whatever, but they are truly the best athletes in the world. When you see, television doesn't do it justice. You have to go to a game live and be down on the field and to to experience the violence and how fast they are and how quick they can change directions and all of it. And I know that's true of every sport, but football is unique among sports because of the physical nature of the game. I mean, those collisions, and it's still to this day, and as many years as I've done this, there are times when I cringe when I hear the sound that comes out of the collisions.
Yeah. It always fascinates me, to your point of the athletes, like some of the size, some of these guys, how fast they can move off the ground from one another. How on earth are they doing that?
Well, they are the truly outliers. They are the best of the best, and the ones that amaze me more than any are the ones that, quote, aren't special. The ones that don't have the measurables, but somehow their will and their skill keeps them in the game. And I think those guys are, when you look at them and you say, Julian Edelman, for example, when he was doing all he did, I remember recruiting Julian Edelman. His college coach was a friend of mine, and he called me and he said, Jeff, I got a kid for you. I was at Hawaii at the time. And I said, okay, tell me about him. He goes, he's my quarterback. I said, Larry, you run the wishbone. We are 4 wide, throw it every down, run and shoot team. He goes, no, I think this kid's just a different guy. I said, well, what's his name? He goes, Julian Edelman. I said, well, how big is he? He goes, he's 6 feet. He's about 185, 90 pounds. And I'm going, Larry, you're going to ask me to go into my head coach's office where we've got 3 All-American receivers and tell him that this kid who's only got 2 years left to play in college because he went to junior college and is 6 foot, 190 pounds and a wishbone quarterback, and you want me to ask him to give that kid a scholarship? Are you crazy? And what's funny about that story is I did a Super Bowl and Julian was there, and you know how they have the little things, the little interview rooms, right? Where you get the guys, right? So there's all kinds of people around, and I told Julian that story. And he looked me right in the eye and he goes, well, I guess you made a mistake, didn't you?
Yeah. What career he had, yeah.
And he was right.
Yeah. Did he show you his wings when he was doing that?
I think it was probably his second Super Bowl, I think. Yeah. When I had an opportunity to, and he's a great guy. Julian Edelman's a great person. He's funny dude. But he just looked me right in the eye and goes, well, I guess you made a mistake, didn't you?
Yeah. I think we said it for me, Ryan. This is our first year we sat and watched the combine end to end this year.
Yeah.
We've gifted in and out of it. We keep an eye on ESPN and things, but actually watching them and the sight when you see a 6'5", 350-pound offensive lineman or the defensive end doing a 4.5 second 40.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
And then you see their vertical. And then you see the way that they move through the cones. It's like, is that really a bear that's doing that?
What's amazing to me is, and again, having some historical perspective on the thing.
Yeah.
I can remember when I was playing that if a guy ran faster than 4.6, he was considered really fast.
Yeah.
Right now, if you don't run, under 4.5, right, and in the low 4.4s, you're not considered fast.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Sanders went to the combine. Right now, Emmanuel, I think he played in 3 Super Bowls. Right, he's a Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler, all that stuff. Emmanuel played for me, and he went to the combine. And when he was at the combine, he ran 4.62, and they said, "There's no way you can play in the NFL at that speed." Now, so he fell in the draft to the 3rd round when the Steelers took him, and he ended up playing, I think, 10 years and was a great player. But that's how much it's changed, right? Because they're looking at guys now and saying, okay, he runs 4.55, and he's marginal speed guy. 30 years ago, that was a guy that could fly.
Yeah.
Well, it's just crazy. There's some of these guys. When we got back into watching it after a hiatus and things, you'd see watching Jason Kelsey was one of my examples I always look at, and watching how nimble he was, the way he moved his feet, the way he danced almost. Yeah,
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah, and it was incredible. The size of him. I know it looks small in comparison to some of the players now, but he wasn't a running back, but he moved like one.
He had tremendous balance, and what? And one of the reasons he stuck around so long, number one, he was very smart, very tough, is that he could. They talk about, does the guy have the ability to bend, right? Yeah. And especially when you're talking about offensive linemen. And one of the tests that they do, one of the scouting little tests that they do, is the kid will walk in the room and they'll just tell him, okay, get into a full squat and see if he can actually get down there. Yeah. Because typically what limits offensive linemen is stiffness in their ankles, their knees, and their hips. And if you can't bend, you're going to have a real difficult time playing in the National Football League. And so that suppleness, that ability to bend your body, and all the balance, like when you watch Kelsey play, the thing that struck me was just like when he would zone block or pull on a gap scheme, or his ability to move, like his balance and ability to bend, all that stuff was so incredible. And then you look go two guys down from him, right? And look at Lane Johnson. Yeah. Lane Johnson went to junior college, fellas, as a quarterback.
Wow.
As a quarterback, right? And so he ended up growing into an offensive tackle. And, that the big Australian guy on the other side was a rugby player. But they were athletes, and that's what you can't just be a big fat guy anymore. Well, you can be, but you're probably not going to be very good or play very long in the National Football League.
Yeah, it's definitely changing there. And I think it with the changes made with the athleticism and the pace of it, I think that's kind of what's making that international market bigger. And
it is, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've always been a proponent of our league be getting out into the international marketplace, because our game is so similar, right, to the games that people play in Europe. It's interesting when you watch NFL players now, how the bodies have changed. Now on defense, there are very few fat guys anymore. Right now, you may have a nose tackle or a defensive lineman that's sits in a gap on first down and plays the run, but you look at the linebackers and the rushers, they look like power forwards in the NBA. They're long, lean, guys that have incredible first steps, and secondary guys. Everybody wants now that 6'2", 205-pound corner, where in the past, you look at guys like Darrell Green, one of the greatest corners of all time. He's 5'9", and it's obviously he had great speed, but you got to the game has changed. The game is changing all the time, and so players have to change for the game.
It definitely opened our eyes, hasn't it? We were very much a offensive
back and wide receiver people. Yeah.
We were all for King Derrick and Saquon's of the world, but now it's equally with the defense.
Myles Garrett, I love him now. Like a few years ago.
Oh man, I'm gonna tell you something. It's like I say, television doesn't do justice to how good of athletes these guys are and what they can physically do. Yeah. They are so incredibly powerful, and their speed is impressive, but to me, the thing that is most impressive is their ability to generate force, right? And that's typically in your broad jump and your vertical jump. That's why they use that test. But that's also how you generate speed, generates power, and that's where collisions come from. And the game is safer than it's ever been, but still, when you think about it, that's a lot of body slamming into another lot of body.
No, and the speed as well.
And they used to have a lot of their own padding before, the bigger guys. Now, muscle on muscles hurts even more.
Well, you know what? I looked at one of our offensive linemen the other day. He was getting dressed for the game, and he had a pair of shoulder pads on, and they looked like quarterback shoulder pads. And I was like, what are you wearing? He goes, these are my custom pads. And they're fitted. This company makes them. They're fitted just to him, right? Tailor fitted. And they have no flap on the shoulder. And like he wears his shirt way up to here. And what he said was, without that flap, the defensive lineman can't grab him.
Yeah.
He's out there playing offensive tackle. Used to be the offensive tackles had shoulder pads like this big and a big neck collar and all that. Now it's all changing.
Makes sense, though. Makes sense.
It is. Yeah. So, I know we've taken up a lot of your time, Jeff, and it's been fantastic talking to you.
Yeah.
It's been my pleasure. And again, anytime you want to sit and chop it up, I'm always at your disposal, and I hope to see you guys. Where are you doing now? Are you in Leeds?
No, so we're in about 35 minutes from London. So
yeah.
Well, I hope I get a chance to sit down and we'll have a beer together when I come back over to do my work.
You shouldn't say that because we'll hold you to it.
No, I'm dead serious. Now let's do it.
That's it from us this week, so make sure you follow, subscribe, all the usual podcast bits.
Yep, and you can find us on X at MindTheStatPod, on TikTok at MindTheStatPodcast, on Instagram, again, MindTheStatPodcast. We appreciate every single download, message, share, and listen. Yep, enjoy the game, enjoy the moments, mind the stat.